In this lesson, we'll discuss the concept of percent yield and go through an example calculation. When experiments are carried out in labs, you often don't get your exact expected result, which includes not obtaining the exact amount of substance that you expected. This could be for various reasons, such as incomplete reactions and the loss of product during purification. In any instance, the percent yield is the percent of your calculated value that you actually obtained in the experiment. To calculate percent yield, the actual yield is divided by the theoretical yield, then multiplied by 100. Let's go through an example problem involving a percent yield calculation. 10 grams of carbon is burned to make CO2, according to the equation below. If 20 grams of CO2 is formed, what is the percent yield of this experiment? Let's start with writing down the information gathered from the problem. We know that the mass of carbon is 10 grams, and we know that the actual mass of CO2 obtained is 20 grams. Now, to calculate the percent yield of the experiment, we must determine the theoretical yield of our desired substance. In this case, we must calculate the theoretical mass of CO2 that we expect. To do this, we start with our mass of carbon, which we know is 10 grams. We'll first divide this by the molar mass of carbon, which is 12 grams per mole, in order to convert 2 moles. From here, we'll multiply by the molar ratio 1/1 from our chemical equation, in order to convert between moles. Lastly, we'll multiply by the molar mass of CO2, which is 44 grams per mole, in order to convert from moles. Performing this calculation, the grams of carbon cancels out, followed by the moles of carbon, and lastly, the moles of CO2. This gives us 36.67 in our desired unit grams of CO2. On to our final step. We now have both our actual yield and theoretical yield, which we can put into the percent yield formula. Substituting our known information, we get the percent yield to be 54.5%. This means we obtained only 54.5% of the amount of CO2 we expected.